What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders Podcast, aka The Whip Show. I am Deshaun Whip Dog Whipple, and I am here with my wonderful partner,
Devastating Daryl Pace, once again in the control center. So,
Devastating Daryl Pace, man. Good to see you, man. How you been?
Oh man, I've been doing good. I've been healthy. Family is excited. For those that don't know, in Michigan here, the stay-at-home order has been lifted, so I can go outside now.
This is true. So now you can actually go get some stuff to clean up the control center, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal, man. Well, speaking of going outside and being powerful and enjoying life, we have a wonderful man right now that has enjoyed a great life in the pro wrestling world. This man is the former world champion of the National Wrestling Alliance. And if I do say so myself, next to me, he is the best mama's boy in the world. Can we give it up to Mr. Tim Storm? What's going on, sir?
Oh man, that may be the best intro I've ever had. But I got to tell you, I don't think I got the best mom in the world. So I don't know. You may beat me on the mama's boy side because you may be a better mom. You may be a better boy than I am. But I am all of that. I love my mom. My mom's my hero. Spent some time with her last week for the first time since the whole shutdown. So yeah, I get that, man. I'm all about that.
That's a beautiful thing, man, because as we move through our world, because myself, I was a former indie worker, did some stuff as well. Right. But as we move through our world, that support from our mom is such a serious thing, such a beautiful thing, man.
That's one of the positives for me. My mom has supported me in just about everything. Now, I will say that she has never liked me wrestling. She has never ever liked it. And matter of fact, I did a little Q&A with her this last week. It'll probably show up at some point somewhere. But to this day, she says, "Well, I don't like him wrestling because I don't want him to get hurt. He's my boy. He's my baby boy." So, but she supported everything I've ever done, and her only fear is her baby's going to get hurt. That's her only fear.
But that's mom. She's supposed to feel like that.
That's mom. And I've got 2 kids and 5 grandkids, and I feel the same way.
Nice.
I talked to my son the other day. He's got a 6-year-old, just turned 6. And we had the conversation about, and I'll even say it straight up, I kind of pushed him into football, and I wanted him to do that, and he loved it, and he was really good at it. But I question now if I would make the same decisions with, how things have changed with concussion protocol and all those things. Would I push him in that same direction? And we had that conversation about the oldest grandson.
Nice. So, Tim, you just talked about having a grandson, and I look at you. You stay in amazing shape, man. Do the babies keep you in shape? Just the business itself? Wow.
It's just a personal, pride or passion, especially when I had a period in my life wrestling wise where I was I was up around 315. My knees were bothering me. My back was bothering me. I didn't look good. I couldn't move. And I was that way for a long time. And it got to a point wrestling wise where I just had to kind of do a self-evaluation. And I decided I either need to get out or I need to get in shape. And then I'll tell you that winning the NWA World's title, I was in good shape when I won it, but that was and is a driving force. The NWA is a driving force to me. That's my passion in wrestling. And I'm 56 now, and even with the quarantine, I'm the first thing I did when we shut down is I ordered an exercise bike because I knew the gyms were gone, and then the rest is just consistency and eating. But today, June 1st, first day that I've been able to get back in the gym. My gym was open today. First day I've been back in there.
All right, no, you're out of Georgia, correct?
No, I'm actually out of Texas. I'm right outside of Dallas. Yeah, I'm right outside of Dallas.
Okay. And with that being said, the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, has an amazing lineage. Obviously, you're talking about your Dusty Rhodes, your Ric Flairs.
Yeah.
First of all, what drew you to the wrestling world in the first place?
I grew up and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this section but I grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And because of the central location with the U.S., I got wrestling every Saturday 3 times, 3 different wrestling programs. So I got USWA, which was Jerry Lawler, all those guys, Boogie Woogie Man, Kamala. I got all those guys early in the morning. I got Georgia Championship Wrestling in the afternoon. And then at night, I got World Class, which was the Von Erichs and all that. So what pulled me in, what drew me in was, I loved wrestling. I loved the spectacle and the athletic, the picture of that. But that NWA thing, that was heyday, man. That was, and with this shutdown, I'll just tell you guys, I've probably watched more wrestling in the last 8 weeks than I have in the last 8 years. I have lit YouTube up, right? That's what I do every day. It's, so NWA for me was the Four Horsemen, Legion of Doom. It was Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2. It was the Assassins. To me, it was the best wrestling ever. So for that reason, I've always been drawn to those 3 letters. The NWA thing has always been a thing for me.
Now, when you talk about that, is there a particular style of wrestler from that time? We had the big guys, we had the giants, we had fast moving guys. What style, kind of really drew you in?
I was pulled in by, if I had to make, somebody asked me one day what my Mount Everest would be, or my statues would be, the top 4, and that's tough because you get into all the categories and things. But for me, I was a huge Dusty Rhodes fan. The charisma, and the funny thing, when I look back at that, I didn't realize that Dusty wasn't a body guy, right? It never occurred to me. I always had a really weird thing about, I liked the mask wrestlers quite a bit. Obviously Ric Flair was one of the greatest champions ever. I really liked Harley Race. I was a big Junkyard Dog fan coming from the South, so. And one guy that I've watched in the last couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago, and a lot of people probably don't remember, you guys may or may not, but I became a big Ernie Ladd fan. The big cat Ernie Ladd, Ladd played pro football, and those were the guys that kind of pulled me in, and I got a lot of style from, well, I shouldn't say style. I developed my thing, my wrestling style from those guys. And the truth, what that really means is my comfort level is throwing punches and kicks and being super physical. If I can get in there and wrestle, but if I get into a technical wrestling match, that is not my strength. I'm very quickly going to try to turn that into more of a brawl style, a Bruiser Brody kind of thing. And again, an Ernie Ladd kind of thing. Those guys weren't going to get in there and trade arm bars and headlocks and drop kicks. They were going to get in there and fight. I realized that the more I fought, the better I did, the more matches I won, and the more money I made, as opposed to getting in there and trying to be a technical wrestler. So, that's kind of the genesis of that becoming what I am.
Nice. Well, let's talk about your path to NWA Powerrr, because I know you went through Championship Wrestling of Hollywood. Tell us a little bit about your path to actually get you into NWA Powerrr.
Well, I've been wrestling now for 25 years, and I didn't start until I was 30. So, I guess maybe I'm coming up on 26. I never know when that date is. My daughter has corrected me a couple times on how long I've been wrestling. But the very first, when I trained in Arkansas at this tiny, nothing ring in the middle of Paris, Texas, which is, I don't know, I'm guessing 400 people. I drove, a couple hours to get there every week. But it took me about a year, and I started working matches at about 6 months. But about a year in, I got a booking up in the hills of Arkansas at I couldn't even tell you the name of the town, but they were calling themselves NWA Mid-South. And for a guy growing up watching the NWA, and they weren't, by the way, and I didn't know that till I got there, but that was like, it was like a magnet drawing me up there. So I've always had that thing for the NWA. About 12 or 13 years ago, I had a local guy that ran Oklahoma and Texas. And he came up to me at a wrestling gathering that used to be called the Red Bastille Shootout, and he literally walked up and he said, "I want you to be my Kerry Von Erich. I want you to be on every show." And he was an NWA franchise guy, and I immediately started working for the NWA. That was under the old ownership, and that developed into a good relationship. And then it's like any other business, right? I mean, it's you go out, you perform, you represent well, you know, they want to use you more, and it just kind of grew and grew. And eventually I won the North American, NWA North American, which at the time was in the, you know, it was a second belt under the world heavyweight title. I won that a couple of times and represented the company well. And I just, you know, I finally got, well, I shouldn't say I finally got, because I got a bunch of opportunities at the world title. I never won it. So I finally climbed the top of the mountain, which was big, huge for me. And when the new ownership group, when William Patrick Corgan bought the NWA with Dave Lagana as like his director of operations, his vice president, I really didn't know at that point if they would continue forward with a 53-year-old world champion, right? I had no clue. They didn't have an investment in me. They didn't know me. We had to build a trust. But that's going to develop into a 10 pounds of gold series done by the NWA. And then that will eventually turn into NWA Powerrr. First NWA Powerrr episode was a rematch for the world title against Nick Aldis. You know, and I look at all of those. Every match I do, I look at and try to, how does that stand on its own? I was very proud of the way that match came off. Obviously, I would have liked for the finish. You know, I would have liked to win the title again. But so that's kind of the pathway to NWA Powerrr. I don't know. I'll tell you this: in everything that Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana have done, they have under-promised and over-delivered. So I didn't know going in what to expect from NWA Powerrr, and I don't think anybody knew if it was going to be, you know, we wanted it to be a success. We worked really hard to make it a success, but, you know, it very quickly gained a following. I think the first episode, I mean, I think it popped out there at a couple 100,000 views. And I mean, I didn't know it. I didn't know it was going to do that.
Now step back for a little bit, because you said 25 years. So that's going to put your start around right before the Monday Night Wars, right? We're talking about mid-90s, maybe 94, 95, something like that?
Yeah, that's about right.
So now we 94, 95. So where are you? Are you know, again, wrestling's big. Well, it's not quite big yet. It's
right.
Going to hit another boom in about a couple of years.
Right.
You're in the mix of that big boom. Like, what's going on with you, you know, when you're starting off and making your rounds?
Well, okay, here's kind of where I was at in life. Married, 2 kids, house payment, 2 car payments, living in right outside of North Little Rock, Arkansas. And I wanted a new challenge. That's what it came down to. I just, and the wrestling had always been, you know, something that has just been in the back of my mind. I want to try. But, you know, at 30 years old, that's when most guys they've either hit their peak or they're getting out of wrestling. That's not when they're getting in. And the first call that I made was to WCW Power Plant. And I'm going to put this in my words, not theirs, but it went something like this. Okay, you have to be under 30, but we'll still take your money if you want to come up. That's my words, that's not theirs. And I found a local guy who had wrestled all over the nation, had held. He was what would be called a junior heavyweight at the time, not a big guy. But I started training with him. And you're right, because I had not, I won't say I didn't watch wrestling, but it was right before the Monday Night Wars, and it drew me in. You know, and I'd already started training, but it really pulled me in as far as an interest level and those kind of things.
Nice. Well, going back, you talked about the 10 Pounds of Gold series, which was amazing. The production on that was amazing. Was that primarily William Corgan and Dave Lagana to put that together?
Absolutely.
And like I said, we've had Joe Galley on the show before, Voice, and we were talking to him, and he was just talking about how amazing it is to work with such people like that. Let me know how it is to work with William Corgan, man, and Dave Lagana.
You know, getting to that 10 Pounds of Gold series for me was it wasn't a long road, but there was a process for me to get there. I'm an old school guy. I'm an old guy, but I'm an old school guy. I'm an old school attitude. And there were 3 things you protected as an old school guy. I didn't want anybody to know how old I was, because I didn't want that. I didn't want that to be an issue. Right. I didn't want anybody to know that I had another job, that I'm a history teacher. That's what I do. And I don't, you're not going to, if I'm supposed to be a big bad wrestler, nobody's going to fear the history teacher, right? So I didn't want that out there. And then you always protected your family. You kept your family out of the loop. You didn't want them for whatever, just protect your family. So we had to build up with Dave and Billy, and I kind of had to build up a trust and a relationship. And they kept, they felt like there was a good story there to tell. I didn't know. Honestly, I had no clue if it was there or not. I didn't know it was going to connect at all. But I trusted them. And I'm just like you, Deshaun. When that first episode, hit, I was blown away. And then it was kind of like a 2-part thing. It was like, wow, that's actually, they're actually doing this about me. That's really cool. And then it was, wow, the production value and the editing and the back, your music and the way it's put together. I got a little bit, I think a lot of people out there forget that wrestlers are people, right? I mean, so there was a little bit of negative firing back at, who is this guy? Why is my granddad on, carrying the tie? Those kind of things. Not literally, but, being an old guy. But by the second episode, they put it together so well and presented it so well. People started kind of getting on the train a little bit, and working for them is perfect for me. Now, not everybody could do it, because you have to be twisted, or you have to be bent just a little different to do it, because with Dave was the guy who did most of the interviewing for the 10 Pounds of Gold. But Billy is the backstage guy at NWA Powerrr. And I will tell you that in my, whatever it's been now, 2 or 3 years with those guys, they've never handed me a script and said, here's what we want you to say, right? It is with Dave on 10 Pounds of Gold, it was, he'd set up the camera and we just start talking. And then when he put it all together, I was like, wow, I don't remember saying that, just the way he edited it. The story that I tell with Billy for that episode 1, which I felt a little bit of pressure. Nick and I had worked 2 other matches. One was what you brought up earlier, was Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And I'm just the way I am. I did not think I did a good job on that match. Nick was great. And it turned out to be an acceptable match, but I was disappointed in the way I performed. I truly believed, and still believe, that I can wrestle with anybody in the world. On that night, I had a realization of how good Nick Aldis was, because that's the first time I'd ever met him and ever been in the ring with him. The second match was him winning the title for me in what was an unexpected rematch at CZW in New Jersey. And I was broken ribs, wasn't, the story wasn't planning to wrestle. And, that match probably wasn't 4 or 5 minutes long. I didn't do a whole lot to get beat that night, right? I mean, I fought, but so coming into that first episode of Powerrr, when it was pitched at me, here's kind of what we want to do. And we're going to put a stipulation on it. Nick's going to give you a shot, but if you lose, it's your last shot. And Dave said, I think this is a really good way to bring everything full circle and then introduce a new era, because we can use the backstory of, the feud that you guys had. And, and it worked out great. Except for the losing part and never getting another shot. It worked out really good. But so that's kind of how we got to NWA Powerrr. And man, at 53, getting the 10 Pounds of Gold, there's not a lot of 53-year-old wrestlers out there possibly getting the biggest push of their career. And then turn that crank a little bit more and say, and 2 years later at NWA Powerrr, I'm getting the biggest push I've ever got at 55, right? So working with those guys is phenomenal. For that episode, all I really got was, okay, I knew what the match was. I knew it was going to main event the first show. And Dave said, be thinking I'm going to give you probably 60 or 90 seconds with the mic before the match to just kind of tell the people how you're feeling. That's fine. And I'm not one of those guys that practices promos, right? That's a Dusty Rhodes thing. If you shouldn't practice your promo, because you lose the emotion, the natural emotion. That my first take is usually the best take. So, but my pressure was, I got a lot in my heart I want to tell people about why this is important to me. How am I going to compress that into 60 seconds, right? So I'm loose, I've stretched, I've got a sweat going, I'm ready to go out there, and I'm standing at the curtain going, what am I going to leave out? Because I got so many things I want to say. And Billy literally walks up to me at the curtain at the gorilla position, and he goes, "You don't worry about how long it takes. You talk, speak from your heart, and we'll, and it's going to be great." And that was like the burden lifted off of me. So for me personally, working for those two guys is complete freedom, and it fits perfectly with my personality. They don't say, "Don't talk about this," or "hit these points." They just say, "You go out there and talk." And they told the entire crew that day, "This is a sink or swim deal, right? We're going to hand some of you a live mic. If you go out there and kill it, you get your money. If you go out there and sink and drown, probably won't get that live mic anymore," right? So, but that's perfect for me.
Nice. And I want to touch on that too. First of all, the presentation of you as a personality and character is amazing. Like you said, you didn't want to talk about your age, so it ended up coming up. But you're not a wrestler that's 56. You're a wrestler that happens to be 56. You're a pro wrestler first. You know what I mean? The way the fans.
I need you to be my hype guy. I need you to tell people that, because I think that gets lost sometimes. I think people look at it and go, "Oh yeah, there's that guy looks pretty good for 56, right?" But I don't. That's why I protected the age thing. Because think about it, 10 years ago, I was thinking the same thing. I don't want anybody to know I'm 46 because I'm the oldest guy in the locker room. I just want them to respect me as a wrestler, right? So I need you to go out there and hype me before I go out and say, "Okay, it doesn't matter how old. Age is just a number," right? So
I got you, man. Now, speaking of power, like I said, I've been hooked in from day one. From 10 pounds of gold all the way to what we got going on now with Power.
Good.
Seen every episode. But when you guys first had that initial show on YouTube, because most shows, they're on regular TV, quote unquote, being on YouTube, and like you said, blew the numbers away. Why do you think people gravitated so well to the internet to watch you guys?
I think, and boy, it's the landscape has changed so much in the last 5 or 6 months that what I'm going to say almost doesn't apply, but I'm going to say it. We were at a point that wrestling had reached a whole different level as far as what it offered, right? I believe, like I always use the analogy of ice cream, right? So if everybody has their favorite flavor of ice cream, none of them are wrong because that's your flavor, right? So I may like chocolate chip cookie dough and you might like mint chocolate chip. That doesn't mean you're wrong. So I think that the NWA Powerrr offered a new flavor, and it was different than anything else out there. And here's the funny thing, and I wish I could take credit, but I'm not that smart. But at one point they presented us with the demographics, and you would think, based on NWA and old school presentation, and you would think with the studio taping, that it would be, pick a number, males from 42 to 50, whatever. And the funny thing about the demographics is it was males and females from 25 to, it reached a younger demographic than I think we even thought. It's such a different presentation, and it's not like we're trying to be anything else, right? We're just going out there and being NWA. And man, it clicked, and I'm sure happy it clicked, right? I mean, I think anything, it's like you guys doing your show. You want people to like what you're doing. You want them to be entertained by it. And, that's like the challenge that everybody's got right now going out in front of no audience. How do you respond if there's no audience, right? So that landscape has changed now. Now we've got people trying to run shows with no crowds, and I can't imagine. I mean, I've done an empty arena match, but I can't imagine doing that every week with no crowd feedback, because I'm an old school guy. I depend on that to know how my match is going to go.
That's an interesting thing when you look back, right? Because when WCW went out of business, we talked about the numbers of viewers at that point in time, and WWE never didn't keep those viewers. They kind of disappeared. And
right.
So there's an audience out there that loved wrestling that just wasn't watching it. Right. And we saw WCW merge into something like the WWE. And then now we've seen other groups come in to be like the WWE.
Right.
And I think that what the original NWA was, probably up to like 92, disappeared. It
Yeah.
disappeared from the face of the earth. So when this show comes up, it's like, wait, for me, you're right. A lot of people, older people like me, go, oh, okay, I remember the NWA. But then like kids, like my son's seen it, it's like, oh man, that looks authentic to him. He's drawn in and just looking at it because it doesn't look like the same show that he's seen all the time.
Right. And again, I'm just very fortunate to be a part of it. And because exactly what you say, and I'm sure you guys have seen this because Alpha and it floats around the, social media. There's this one meme that keeps showing up and it's usually credited to Johnny Valentine. And the meme says, you may not believe wrestling is real, but you're going to know that I am. Right. So that's how I approach the matches. And in general, that's what we've got with the NWA. I think it was Eli Drake that cut a promo on one of the first shows. And he said, we've got a locker room full of grown men back there. We don't have anybody that's a child trying to play dress up as a wrestler. And I know that on any given night, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to know I've been in a battle. But that's what I want, right? I mean, that, again, you want to throw me something in my wheelhouse, right? Throw me that fastball in the inside corner and I get my arms, that's me. Have me go out there and try to work lucha or technical. It just, I'm going to embarrass myself. So I just found a place that lets me be me and fits my natural style. And like you're saying, and that's, when you say he connected with that because it's real, it's about as real as it gets.
Now, what's the emotion, right? You watched NWA, so you grew up in that area. You're coming to the studio that looks exactly like that studio. You have the 10 pounds of gold that Harley Race carried, right?
Right.
I mean, no matter how, much, if it's a job or whatever, what's the emotion when you're in this world? What are you feeling?
For me personally, there was prior to the current ownership group, I felt like it was me and a couple of other guys that were kind of waving that NWA flag, kind of going, hey, remember us, we're still out here. And, there was not a lot of respect for it. So I kind of got this thing in my head where I'm like, I'm the one guy left waving the flag. But here's what I realized. When I walked into that studio and it had the blue apron, the yellow letters like I grew up watching, the studio itself, it had both an old school and a new school feel to it. And I was like a little kid. I was just like, I couldn't stop looking. But here's kind of what registered with me that surprised me. Every wrestler, man and woman that walked in there felt the exact same way. And I was never by myself. I just didn't know. And then look at the way, like you said, look at the way the fans, that the studio, the audience that's there, they're part of the show, right? They're passionate about wrestling. They're into it. They're steering where we're going in a lot of cases. I heard, I think it was Billy said something the other day on something where we were talking about the question mark. And he made the comment that the question mark was probably only going to be out there 1 or 2 matches total in the original plan. The crowd jumped on that, went nuts over it. He became a crowd favorite and still is. And we're 6 months later, right? So that studio audience is a big part of it. I walked into, I've never had this thought before. I walked into my past and my future at the exact same time. And my heart was pounding. And, I was like a kid at Christmas. I just couldn't stop looking around. And every single guys who had been on the biggest stages in the world, walk into that building and feel the exact same way.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. Like I said, I've seen your feuds with Nick Aldis, amazing. I've seen what you've had to do with Strictly Business, awesome as well. But to the people that are out there that maybe haven't seen NWA for whatever reason, besides yourself, name some of the top guys they should be paying attention to. Because you guys have one of the most amazing rosters I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, and I've been, again, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've been in a lot of locker rooms, and I've been in a lot of really good locker rooms, right? But as soon as I start naming names, I'm going to, it'll leave somebody key out. But if you go current guys who have been around for, say, in the last 8 or 10 years and been on top, we've got Nick Aldis. We've got Eli Drake. We've got James Storm. We've got the Pope, Elijah Burke. We've got, he was Brahm, right? So, in TNA, those guys are current superstars who are in peak condition or ready to go. on the other end of that, because I'm always the oldest guy in the locker room, but at NWA, you know, we've got Ricky and Robert. We got the Rock and Roll Express that won the tag championship, what, for the 9th or 10th time. I walked in one day and sat down and introduced myself to the guy next to me. His name is George South, who has been wrestling for 30-something years and has wrestled at every level, and he's a phenomenal human being. You know, on the lower end, we've got super young, talented guy, Caleb Conley, Ricky Starks. On the women's side, we got Allison Kay, Thunder Rosa, Marty Bell. I mean, it's a locker room full of incredibly talented women. And the thing that we've kind of been known for is the mic work. And I've always thought, okay, well, I'm pretty good on the mic, but on any given night, hand the mic to Eddie Kingston, because he's as real as it gets. Hand the mic to Nick Aldis, right? They put Eli Drake and James Storm together as a tag team, and that's hard to beat. Put the mic in the Pope's hand. And in my mind, like, he and I laugh about it, because I'll come up to him and go, just for a second, I thought you were going to go wines and dines with kings and queens and, you know, the pork and beans. And he goes, no, man. He said, I might touch on it, but I'm not going to steal somebody's stuff. I'm going to make it my own. You know, the whole Strictly business with Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs, you know, and Camille, you know, any one of those people on a given night could just blow the roof off the place. And we're all sitting in the back watching matches and watching promos and all those kind of things. And you can kind of see somebody hit that high note on that promo, and you can see everybody go, okay, all right, okay, I see what you did there. Now it's my turn, right? So everybody's just kind of turning that crank, and that makes it for a great place to work.
Nice. Well, with that being said, speaking of how great you guys are on the mic, you guys went into a majestic area, if you will, a mystique, a certain land called Carney Land.
Yes.
When they presented Carney Land to you, what was your first impression, man? What did you think of it in Southern, man?
I think the way it was presented to me, first off, it was presented, and I think the exact words to me were, have I lost my mind? That was when they presented it. That's what they said. So people who have not been around wrestling, and you guys have, but people who have not been around wrestling may not know the term carny. It comes from carnival, and it becomes it's really, in a lot of ways, it's a negative term, right? If somebody's a carny, it means that they got some alternative reason for doing something. It's probably may not be honest. You know, if somebody's a carny, they're probably trying to get your money. And those people who have been in the business know there are a lot of carnies in wrestling. There just are, right? So here's the way it was presented. Dave Lagana was at whichever WrestleMania was in, I guess, New Orleans a few years ago, and he was shooting a lot of footage downtown. And you would have guys from 4 different promotions who are all friends meet on, you know, downtown New Orleans on Bourbon Street, walk up to each other, start laughing and shaking hands and, you know, and talking from all the different promotions, because everybody knows each other or knows of each other. And I think he was watching some of that video back with somebody, and they said, all right, what magical land does this happen in, right? What land do guys and girls from all promotions meet and are friends and have this interaction? And it became known as Carney Land, right? So, you know, so Carney Land in the concept is it's an imaginary real world that wrestlers live in, and everything is about Carney. So it's, and if you guys have watched it, you know, I know after the first episode, the comment to me was made, people are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. There's not going to be anything in between, because it's going to be unlike anything that's ever been put out there. So here we are, you know, it's an opportunity for everybody. I'm enjoying it.
I'm a huge fan. Like I said, I watched all the Carney Land. I'm on Patreon. I want to be a member of Carney Land, man. But see, and I know you talked about earlier, you didn't really want to talk about your shoot life as far as being a teacher, but it ended up coming out. It's obviously a Carney Land.
Right.
So the balance of being Super Tim Storm, a wrestler, and first of all, how do your students, your people in your shoot life deal with that and know these 2 different personalities?
It's Okay, first off, the personalities aren't very different, right? I mean, I think, and that's so weird to me, is that I think Mick Foley in one, maybe his first book, when he was talking about searching for his first gimmick, he was told that when you're trying to figure out what you want to be, you just throw as many things at the wall as you can and you see what sticks. And then he says that really what ends up sticking is probably what's the closest to who you really are, right? So when what you see for me, at least on NWA Powerrr, that's all me, right? I mean, I might turn it up a couple of notches, but really not even. If I stand up there and talk about Mama Storm and I say this happened, that's because it happened, right? So for me, that the who I am at school and who I am in the ring, okay, except for the punching and kicking, it's all, it's the same guy. They know. I tell them. I used to not tell them because I didn't want it to be a distraction, but they're going to know anyway. They're going to find out anyway. So on the first day of school, I bring it up and I show a picture of me standing in the ring wearing, a shirt and usually a tie or whatever, because they don't, I teach 8th grade. I don't need 13, 14-year-old boys and girls picturing me wearing, wrestling trunks while I'm talking about the Constitution, right? So I try to separate those, and I'll tell them up front, here's what I do. And I usually use this line. I'll say, before you ask me, yes, I probably know them, and yes, I've probably wrestled them, but this is U.S. history. And that's what I want you guys to focus on, because knowing about me as a wrestler is not going to get you to the 9th grade. So, and then I'll say, I'll take a couple of questions and then we're going to move on. And the questions are always the same, and it just depends on the person, right? So it used to be, so The Rock, or John Cena, and now it's AJ Styles, and we have a large population of South Pacific Islanders at our school. So a lot of that will come with Roman Reigns, so. And fortunately, I've met just about everybody. I'm not friends with everybody, but I've met everybody, and I can usually say, yeah, I have met them, or yeah, I've got his number right here. You want to call him? Whoever. So it's a weird balance. I've made the joke that on NWA, I'm a face. At school, I work heel more than face, because you have to kind of, you kind of have to bring the hammer sometime with 13 and 14-year-olds. But
anybody try you? Anybody say, hey, teach, I'm taking over?
I have this year, and obviously I got to be careful not giving too much description, but I had a young man this year who on a daily basis would ask me, Mr. Scoggins, can we wrestle? And my answer is always, absolutely, man. But I get paid to wrestle, right? And he'll say, well, how much? And then I'll make up some ridiculous amount of money. I'd love to wrestle you, but it's going to cost you about $5,000 a match, and well, I don't have that much. Well, I'd do it. If you had the money, I'd do it, so, but he literally would, or he'd walk up to me and say, Mr. Scoggins, if I were going to choke slam you, a little like 4'2", 8th grader, so I just laugh and we just keep moving. Just keep moving. Let's go. Keep moving.
For sure. Well, earlier in the show, you spoke about your connection with Mama Storm.
Yeah.
But I got to ask you, how did you feel about actually presenting her as part of a storyline? Seriously, like, she has a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, your mom has a T-shirt, man. How did they present that to you? And when you first heard it, how did you feel?
When that whole thing was an accident. Okay. I'm cutting a promo, and it's kind of my ode to Dusty Rhodes, right? Because I think there are 3 or 4, but I think Dusty Rhodes was one of the best promo men in wrestling history. And I said, to this, I am Mama Storm's baby boy, which is absolutely true. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. 2 of my brothers have passed. My sister's living, but she's the oldest. She's 77. The space between myself and my next brother was about 13 or 14 years. So I was like an only child. And, if you've watched my dad left at a certain point in my life, and it was me and mom, and I am a mama's boy. I love my mom. She is the most awesome person you can imagine. I mean, you have to be careful. You can't compliment something at my mom's house. I'm not joking. You can't say, Mom, I really like that lamp. Is it new? Because she'll go, well, it is. Do you want it? You should take this home with you. It would look really good. So my mom is just amazing. So if you ever go back and you see that promo, when I say Mama Storm's baby boy, there's not even a pause. Like I'm just going. It was just I don't want to say a throwaway line. It was the truth, and I just said it, and then the crowd just starts rumbling. Right? It starts Mama, Mama, and then it becomes Mama Storm, Mama Storm. And I literally, that was against Nick. That was the rematch against Nick. And I got in the ring. Nick hadn't been introduced yet. It was Brian Hefner was the ref, and I walked over and I said, I don't know if I'm happy at that response or if I'm going to regret that, right? Because, well, now I get in the match and I get down and Nick's getting pretty heavy with me, getting on me, and they're not chanting Tim Storm. They're chanting Mama Storm. Okay, again, as a wrestler, somehow I've gotten my 70 or my 94, 95-year-old mom over, and they're chanting for, okay. So that just grows. And usually when we do this, we tape, we'll do 2 days of taping, and each day is 3 episodes, right? So within that 2-day taping, a lot of that crowd is the same. So within the first 2 TV taping, we have 6 or 8 episodes taped, and my mom has gotten the biggest babyface reaction on the roster, So they approached me and said, hey, we want to do some Mama Storm merch. What do you think about that? And I said, I have an idea. And they didn't use my idea because they didn't own the rights to it. They showed me, well, if you can see it, they showed me the Mama Storm shirt, right? And my first thought was, that's not my mom. Why are we going to sell a shirt that's not my mom? And I'm sorry if whoever's designed this is watching. All I could see was Mrs. Doubtfire, right? Because that's me. That's my face. That's my face with a grandma wig on it. But I thought, okay, well, I'm under contract. My mom's not. They own my likeness. They don't own her likeness. Okay, we'll go with this. The thing with the fake Mama Storm, they gave me full respect and said, we want to roll this idea by you and see what you think. And I thought about it probably not long enough, and I said, what's the payoff? How are we going to get out of this? Because I love my mom, and I got to make sure that however we end up with this, that my mom is protected. And okay, and I mean that from she's just such a sweet lady. I got to make sure that she's, and they kind of laid it out for me and said, here's kind of what we want to do. And I said, let's go. And I'll tell you, with the shutdown, they were going to air an episode. They finally aired most of it, called Super POWERrr, where the final of that was they brought the guy that I beat for the world championship, a monster named Jax Dane, out. And if I beat Jax Dane, I got the guy who was, making fun of Mama Storm for 5 minutes. All of that worked out great. I've wrestled Jax, I don't know how many times, and we just beat the snot out of each other every time we wrestle. So, and again, that's a good thing for me, right? That's my ballpark. That's my wheelhouse. So, we got in there and we laugh about it, right? I mean, we literally beat the snot out of each other and then laugh about it. So, but again, I knew, give me that situation every time, because I will rise up on that one.
That was my match, man. That one, because you guys, like you said, you guys were in there. It was a brawl. That match and the pay-per-view match when you were in the crowd and you go up, man, that was my stuff. I was there.
Well, that's my, again, put me in there with somebody who wants to exchange locks and holds, and and I'll go. I can hold my own, but that's not my wheelhouse. Give me 300-pound monster that's going to hit me as hard as he can and get my attention, and it wakes up something in me, and we just fire back at each other. He and I have done that. I think he beat me 3 or 4 times on challenges. I know he beat me twice in Las Vegas on different years. I know he beat me in Mississippi. I beat him in Sherman. Now I beat him in Atlanta. I'm not sure that one's over with, to be honest with you. That was a good one.
Now, I got another thing. I follow your Instagram, and you're very inspirational. Have you always been like that? I don't know if it's just a faith-based or just, have you always been so inspirational?
It's an effort. I mean, it's a commitment, and it's a decision that I make consciously. I know there was a point, you know, I'm not a social media guy. It's not something I'm really good at. It's something I'm trying to get better at. And I know there was a point maybe 5 years ago when I had maybe a Twitter account and I was just posting I felt like it kind of became it was pulling me down. I felt like, okay, I got to post something twice a day. And a lot of the stuff was just, odd jokes or whatever. And then I finally went, just not doing that anymore. And I probably didn't post anything for a year or two. When Billy and Dave bought the NWA, they're both social media experts and they understand how that appeals. And Dave said, "Do you have a Twitter?" And I went, "I do, but I probably hadn't logged on. I couldn't even tell you what the login is." And, but I think that, and I want to be really careful here. I think that if you have a platform, you should use it for good if you can. And, we're in such a tumultuous time as a nation, not just with the pandemic, with the George Floyd thing. And I think that it's kind of, I'm never scared to make a stand on something that I feel committed to and I feel is right. So, we need change. And I honestly don't know what impact I can have on that. But if I don't try, then I'm guilty of not trying. Right. So I don't look at it and go, I think I'm going to be inspirational today. I just try to make sure that whatever I'm posting is positive, uplifting, and some of it's faith-based and some of it's just a positive attitude. But it's kind of, I try to tell people all the time, let's just be nice to each other. We're all brothers. And if a brother is struggling, it's our job to lift that brother up. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's to me, this whole thing, it's heartbreaking. It literally, it hurts my heart that where we're at as a nation right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're getting towards the end of the show, and we always like to try to see if we can stump our wrestlers, our guests with this question.
Okay.
Question is, normally Daryl asks it, but I'll ask it this time, and we're going to make it a little easier. Your top 3 opponents. If you could give them off the top of your dome, who are your top 3 opponents?
Well, I think because of our current situation and because of where we're at with NWA Powerrr and NWA in general, Nick Aldis has to be up there. I had somebody matter of fact, Joe Galley asked me a couple of nights ago if I thought that was one of the greatest feuds in NWA history. And I told him there's no way it can be because I'm a old school guy and, you can't go Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and, you can't take those guys out. But Nick's got to be one of them because of the platform that we were given and how many people saw it. Now, I sound like a mark when I say this, but I'm just going to say it. AJ Styles is one of my favorite guys to ever be in the ring with. The guy you can't have a bad match. He can't. He's incapable of having a bad match. So anything that you get in there and do with him is going to be phenomenal. And then I'm just going to throw one of my best friends a nod. I've been tagging off and on for 20 years and have feuded with this he's one of my best friends, but he wrestles as Adam Asher, the Apocalypse. He's a Texas guy, and if I look at long-term opponents, I've probably been in the ring against or with him more than anybody else. And we just, it's good chemistry. We always tell a good story. We always put on a good show. Was it 3?
Yeah, that's 3. That's 3.
Okay,
you did a good job.
No, those are my
best we ever had to do that.
Well, those are if I just have to throw out 3, but I've been very, very fortunate to have opportunities with a lot of just really talented people. And I've also had a lot of matches with people who maybe didn't have that much talent, and that's what makes you a good performer. If you can have a good, really good match, no matter who you're in there with. And I won't tell you, but I can tell you the worst 3 matches off the top of my head because they're stuck there permanently, and it's like a bad taste, and I can't get it out of my mouth. So.
This is that kind of interview. We don't bash people here. This is not one of those shoot interviews.
No, then we get along well because I'm the same way. Somebody asked me the other day. They said, give me the salt of the earth, one of the best people you know, and give me the saltiest person you know. And I was like, I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus.
Shows, man.
Yeah, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus.
Now, no question. Well, actually, two questions. One, you mentioned, your style, right? And your style is physical, and it's not as technical. That's not your wheelhouse. You can do it. Now, you talked about AJ Styles, so how does that work for a guy that is technical? Does he adjust to you, or are you able to adjust to him? And then the second question is, what's the mark out moment? What's the moment you're in the locker room, you're putting your boots on, and you go, oh, I can't believe I'm in the locker room with this guy?
The answer to the first one is, if you have two professionals in there, you adjust to each other, right? It's a give and take. You find things that you do really well, and if they're really good, like he is, he makes it look good. And then you also, if you're good, you know the things that he wants to do, and you kind of know where those are going to come and how to react to those. So it's a give and take. You're both doing it. And there's there's guys that probably feel that way when they've been in the ring with me, but some people, it's like pulling teeth, to get where you want to go. Or, I think Nick made the joke after our first match that he was going to have to get back and start deadlifting again, because I was so heavy. If he's going to throw me around it. So, some people it's hard sometimes. What was the second one?
A mark out moment. Who are you in the locker room with?
That one happened for me pretty early. I was probably 6 or 8 months in the business, and the guy who I trained with ended up with a partnership with, at the time, which was a new promotion in Springfield, Missouri, and I was living in Little Rock, so it's not a terrible drive. And it was going to be my first TV experiences. And I told you that I was a big Harley Race fan growing up, and it was Harley Race's promotion. And Harley Race came over and he called, I was doing a cowboy gimmick. I was Cowboy Tim Storm, which, again, get this, that's 25 years ago. So it doesn't sound original now. I really thought it was original. And he goes, who's got Butch? And I said, I do, sir. So my first TV match was against Butch Reed, Hacksaw Butch Reed. I do, sir. All right, Cowboy, you just listen to him. He'll tell you what to do. And he kind of walked away, and I'm going to edit this. And he came back, he turned around and went, you might want to watch him. So my mark out moment was Harley Race telling me that my match with Butch Reed, guys that I grew up watching and respecting. And let's be completely honest, he beat the ever-loving crap out of me legitimately. And I mean, it was rough. It was rough, and I learned from it. So, yeah, that was a big mark out moment. A second one was coming through the curtain and having Dusty Rhodes call me over and go, "You did good, kid. You did good." And of course at the time I'm 40-something years old, so I was like, "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." So
you're still so respectful. Even the tenure that you had in the business, you stay so respectful and humble. That's a beautiful thing, man.
Well, thank you, man. That's Mama raised me, right? And that's I believe in respect, and I'm gonna give respect, and I'm gonna, and I feel like if you respect people, people respect you back. So
for sure. Well, Tim, thank you for joining us tonight. We had a great show, but right now is the final segment. This segment is called Ring the Bell, where you have 60 seconds. You can promote yourself. You can talk about anything you want. You can just inspire people if you want to. But Tim Storm, right now, you got 60 seconds. Ring the bell.
All right, guys, here, let's start with this. First off, I want you to try to check out all the Tim Storm stuff. Tim Storm on Facebook, Tim Storm 01 on Twitter. Check that out. One of the things I want to do is I want to get to that 10,000 on Twitter. Don't know why. Don't know what I'm going to do with it if I don't. If you haven't checked out NWA, check out NWA Carneyland. I'm going to be on NWA Insider this week. Check out the 10 Pounds of Gold episode. Catch up on that, NWA Powerrr. And then I want to finish with this. Everybody out there, we have an opportunity to set a pace, to change our hearts, to change our homes, and change the world. All of us have to do whatever it is that we can do as an individual to make this world a better place. Love each other. Be kind. Look at each other with respect and love. And if we do that, we can change the world.
Sounds good to me. Well, Tim Storm, thank you again for coming on the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast. You've been an amazing guest. Keep doing your thing. And when you guys come back from the pandemic, I want to see you as the NWA World Champion once again. Take care, man.
Thank you, guys. My pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you. Wow, man, another fantastic episode. Again, this is the first time we've had a world heavyweight champion on our show.
It's amazing, man. We've had some great guests, man. And I don't know how they just keep coming, but we've been really blessed to have some great individuals, man. But Daryl, like I said, we got some more great stuff coming up. So guys, make sure you check us out. Follow us on Instagram at The Whip Show Podcast, YouTube, The Whip Show Podcast, and on Facebook, The Whip Show. And you can follow the actual podcast, anchor.fm/The Whip Show. And if you want to be a sponsor, because you see the great guests we have on, I mean, it's a perfect podcast. You see it. You know what to do. Send us an email, thewhipshowpodcast@gmail.com. So I am Deshaun Whip Dog Whipple.
Devastating Daryl Pace.
And see, he even hung out for the clothes. We still got Tim Storm. Say bye one more time, Tim.
Hey, guys, you guys have a great show. Everybody listen to these guys.
So that's what's up, man. Take care, and we will see you for the next episode of The Whip Show.